Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to share a story, not just about a man but about a mindset. A journey that begins with a dream and transforms into determined action. This is the story of Joe Ranga, from dreamer to doer. Every great achievement in history started as a dream, a vision, a whisper inside the heart that said, "You are meant for more." Joe Ranga was no different. He was once just a dreamer, filled with ideas, ambition, and hope. But like many of us, he faced doubt. He faced fear. He faced moments when quitting seemed easier than continuing. Dreaming is easy. Action is hard. Joe understood something powerful. Dreams don't work unless you do. He realized that talent means nothing without discipline. Vision means nothing without execution. And potential means nothing without persistence. There were nights when failure knocked on his door. There were days when progress seemed invisible. But Joe didn't measure his success by applause. He measured it by effort, by growth, by showing up when motivation was gone. What changed Joe from a dreamer into a doer was not luck. It was decision. The decision to start before he felt ready. The decision to continue when results were slow. The decision to believe in himself when no one else did. He replaced excuses with effort. He replaced fear with focus. He replaced hesitation with action. Being a doer doesn't mean you're fearless. It means you act despite fear. It doesn't mean you never fail. It means you never stop trying. Joe Ranga became proof that transformation begins the moment you stop waiting and start working. So today I ask you, are you still dreaming? Or are you ready to do? Because inside every dreamer is a doer waiting to rise. The only difference between the two is action. Let Joe Ranga's journey remind us. Dream boldly. Act courageously. Persist relentlessly. And one day your story will inspire someone else to move from dreamer to doer. Every achievement, no matter how grand or historic, begins as a simple dream. Before there is success, before there is recognition, before there is applause, there is imagination. A dream is the birthplace of possibility. It is the silent blueprint of the future. It is the spark that lights the fire of ambition. For Joe Ranga, everything started with a vision in his mind. He could see a version of himself that didn't yet exist in reality. He imagined growth when his circumstances showed limitations. He imagined progress when his resources were few. He imagined impact when no one knew his name. That is the power of a dream. It allows you to see beyond your current environment. Dreams are powerful because they challenge the boundaries of the present. They push you to think beyond what is comfortable and familiar. When you dream, you step into a world where limitations lose their strength. You begin to believe that change is possible. And belief is the foundation of achievement. However, dreaming is often misunderstood. Many people think dreams are fantasies, soft wishes that feel good but lead nowhere. But a true dream is different. A true dream carries emotion. It carries urgency. It disturbs your comfort. It keeps you awake at night. It whispers to you in quiet moments and refuses to disappear. That kind of dream is not just imagination. It is a calling. Joe Ranga's journey reminds us that dreams are not reserved for the privileged or the powerful. They belong to anyone willing to think bigger than their current reality. A dream does not require money. It does not require approval. It only requires courage, the courage to believe in something unseen. Dreams also give direction. Without a dream, effort becomes random. Energy becomes scattered. But when you have a dream, your actions gain purpose. Your struggles gain meaning. Your sacrifices gain value. The dream becomes a compass that guides every decision you make. Yet dreaming alone is not enough. A dream must be protected. It must be nurtured. It must be defended against doubt, both from within and from others. The world often questions big visions. People may laugh. Circumstances may challenge you. But every great achievement in history once looked unrealistic to someone. The difference between those who achieve and those who remain stuck is not the size of the dream. It is the willingness to hold on to it when things get difficult. A dream becomes powerful the moment you decide it matters more than your fear. Joe's story teaches us that the first step toward becoming a doer is allowing yourself to dream boldly. Before you can build something in the world, you must first build it in your mind. Before you can achieve success externally, you must believe in it internally. Every achievement begins with a dream because a dream creates vision. Vision creates belief. Belief creates action. And action creates results. Without the dream, the journey never begins. Dreams are powerful, but they are only the beginning. A dream without action is simply a wish. It may inspire you for a moment, excite you for a day, or motivate you for a week, but without consistent effort, it slowly fades into regret. The bridge between dreaming and achieving is action. Joe Ranga understood this truth deeply. He realized that no matter how big his vision was, it would remain invisible to the world unless he moved. Thinking about success does not create success. Talking about goals does not achieve goals. Planning is important, but planning alone does not build results. Only action transforms imagination into reality. Action is what separates dreamers from doers. Many people have brilliant ideas. Many people have talent. Many people have ambition. But only a few are willing to take the first step, especially when that step feels uncertain, uncomfortable, or risky. Taking action often means starting before you feel ready. It means moving forward without having every detail perfectly planned. It means accepting that mistakes will happen. Joe didn't wait for the perfect moment because he realized the perfect moment rarely arrives. Instead, he created momentum through small, consistent steps. Action also builds confidence. When you act, you gain experience. When you gain experience, you learn. And when you learn, you grow stronger. Fear becomes smaller with every step taken. Doubt loses its power when progress becomes visible. Even small actions create movement, and movement creates belief. Many people underestimate the power of small daily actions. They wait for big breakthroughs, dramatic opportunities, or instant success. But real achievement is often the result of quiet, repeated effort. It is waking up early when others sleep. It is practicing when others procrastinate. It is working consistently when motivation fades. Joe replaced one day with today. He stopped postponing his dreams and started investing in them daily. He understood that dreams demand effort. They demand sacrifice. They demand discipline. And most importantly, they demand courage. Action is not always comfortable. It challenges your habits. It pushes you beyond your limits. It forces you to confront your weaknesses. But it is through action that growth happens. Through action, dreams gain structure. Through action, ideas gain form. Through action, potential becomes performance. There will always be reasons to wait. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of imperfection. But waiting does not protect your dream. It weakens it. The only way to honor a dream is to work for it. Dreams require action because reality responds to effort, not intention. The world rewards those who move. And every time you choose action over hesitation, you move one step closer to turning your vision into something real. Failure is often misunderstood. Many people see it as a final verdict, a sign of weakness, or proof that they are not capable. But in reality, failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the process that leads to it. Every meaningful journey includes setbacks. Every ambitious goal invites challenges. Growth does not happen without resistance. Joe Ranga experienced moments when things did not go as planned. Efforts did not always produce immediate results. Plans sometimes collapsed. Expectations were sometimes unmet. But instead of viewing these moments as permanent defeat, he began to see them as lessons. He understood that failure carries feedback. Failure exposes weaknesses. It reveals gaps in knowledge. It highlights areas that need improvement. While success feels rewarding, failure is often more instructive. It forces reflection. It demands adaptation. It pushes you to grow beyond your current limits. Many people quit at the first sign of failure because they attach their identity to the outcome. They think, I failed, so I must be a failure. But Joe learned to separate the event from his identity. A failed attempt does not define a person. It simply defines a result. And results can change. Failure also builds resilience. When you face difficulty and continue anyway, you develop strength. You become less afraid of risks. You become more comfortable with uncertainty. Each setback you survive increases your confidence to try again. Over time, fear loses its control. Another important truth about failure is that it refines focus. When something doesn't work, you are forced to adjust your approach. You learn to think differently. You experiment. You improve your strategy. Failure becomes a teacher that guides you toward a better method. Joe's progress was not a straight line. There were detours. There were slow phases. There were moments of frustration. But instead of stopping, he asked questions. What can I learn? What can I improve? What can I do differently? That mindset transformed obstacles into stepping stones. Failure also builds humility. It reminds you that growth is ongoing. Keeps you grounded. It prevents arrogance and encourages continuous learning. Those who succeed sustainably are often those who have learned deeply from their failures. It is important to understand that avoiding failure often means avoiding growth. If you never risk, you never stretch your limits. If you never stretch, you never expand your capacity. Safe choices may protect you from temporary disappointment, but they also limit long-term progress. Joe realized that every successful individual has a history of setbacks. The difference is not the absence of failure, but the response to it. Some people stop. Others rise stronger. Each failure becomes a layer of experience that strengthens their foundation. Failure is not the end of the journey unless you decide it is. It is a chapter, not the whole story. It is a moment of redirection, not permanent rejection. When viewed correctly, failure becomes fuel for determination, improvement, and growth. Motivation is powerful, but it is temporary. It comes in waves. Some days you feel unstoppable, energized, and inspired. Other days you feel tired, distracted, or uncertain. If your progress depends only on motivation, your results will rise and fall with your emotions. That is why consistency matters more. Joe Ranga discovered that waiting to feel ready was a trap. There were mornings when enthusiasm was high and productivity came easily. But there were also days when doubt whispered louder than confidence. The turning point in his journey was realizing that success is not built on how you feel. It is built on what you do repeatedly. Consistency means showing up regardless of mood. It means committing to the process even when the excitement fades. It means understanding that real progress is often quiet and slow. Unlike dramatic breakthroughs, consistent effort may not feel impressive in the moment. But over time, it produces powerful results. Small actions done daily are more effective than intense effort done occasionally. A single day of hard work cannot replace weeks of discipline. Consistency compounds. Just like interest in a bank account, steady deposits of effort grow into something significant. Joe didn't rely on bursts of inspiration. He relied on routines. Routines create stability. They remove the need to decide every day whether to act. When something becomes a habit, it requires less emotional energy. It becomes automatic. Joe built systems that supported his goals. Fixed practice times, structured schedules, regular self-evaluation. These systems protected him from inconsistency. Motivation often focuses on feelings. Consistency focuses on commitment. Feelings change. Commitment remains. There were times when Joe did not see immediate progress. Results were delayed. Recognition was absent. But he continued because he understood that growth happens beneath the surface before it becomes visible. Consistency also builds trust, in yourself and from others. When you repeatedly deliver effort, people begin to see reliability. More importantly, you begin to see yourself as dependable. Each completed task strengthens your self-confidence. Each repeated action reinforces discipline. Another powerful aspect of consistency is momentum. When you act regularly, it becomes easier to continue. Stopping completely makes restarting harder. Joe avoided long breaks in effort because he knew that momentum keeps progress alive. Even on difficult days, he chose to do something rather than nothing. Many people chase motivation through speeches, videos, or excitement. While inspiration has value, it cannot replace daily discipline. Consistency transforms average effort into exceptional results. It turns learning into mastery. It turns goals into achievements. Joe's journey proves that greatness is rarely built in one dramatic moment. It is built through countless small moments of decision. Choosing to continue, choosing to improve, choosing to show up again and again. Consistency is not glamorous, but it is powerful. Over time, it separates those who wish from those who achieve. Success does not begin with resources. It does not begin with recognition, connections, or perfect conditions. It begins with a decision. A clear, firm, internal decision that says, I will move forward no matter what. Before progress becomes visible on the outside, it must first be declared on the inside. For Joe Ranga, the transformation from dreamer to doer did not happen overnight. It began in a quiet moment of choice. A moment when he stopped waiting for the right opportunity and decided to create one. A moment when he stopped blaming circumstances and started taking responsibility. That decision changed everything. A decision is powerful because it eliminates hesitation. When you truly decide, you close the door to excuses. You stop negotiating with fear. You stop saying maybe and start saying now. Many people stay stuck not because they lack ability but because they have not fully committed. They are interested but not decided. They hope but they do not act. Taking action requires clarity. It means defining what you want and choosing to pursue it deliberately. Joe understood that drifting through life would not lead him anywhere meaningful. He had to be intentional. He had to choose direction instead of distraction. The moment he made that choice, his mindset shifted from passive to proactive. A decision also creates accountability. When you decide, you hold yourself responsible for progress. You no longer wait for motivation to rescue you. You no longer depend on others to push you. You take ownership of your path. Ownership transforms weakness into strength because you recognize that your future depends on your effort. There will always be reasons not to act. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of uncertainty. But every meaningful step forward requires courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the willingness to move despite it. Joe did not wait until fear disappeared. He chose to move while it was still present. Another important truth is that decisions shape identity. When you repeatedly choose action, you begin to see yourself as someone who takes initiative. You stop identifying as someone who talks about dreams and start identifying as someone who pursues them. That identity shift is powerful. It influences behavior, confidence, and long-term growth. Success often looks complex from the outside, but it usually begins with a simple commitment. Start learning. Start practicing. Start building. Start improving. The first action may feel small, but it breaks the barrier of inaction. Once movement begins, progress becomes possible. Joe's journey proves that circumstances do not determine destiny, decisions do. The environment may be imperfect. Resources may be limited. Support may be minimal. But the choice to act remains personal. The moment you decide to take responsibility and move forward, you step into control of your own direction. Success starts with a decision because action begins with commitment. And commitment turns intention into reality. Fear is a natural human emotion. It appears whenever we step into uncertainty. It shows up when we try something new, take a risk, or move beyond our comfort zone. Many people believe that courage means having no fear at all. But true courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to act in spite of it. Joe Ranga felt fear many times on his journey. Fear of failure. Fear of rejection. Fear of criticism. Fear of not being good enough. These emotions were real and powerful. But he learned that fear does not have to control action. It can exist in the background while progress continues in the foreground. Fear often exaggerates risks and minimizes potential. It tells you what could go wrong but rarely reminds you what could go right. It magnifies obstacles and shrinks possibilities. If Joe had listened only to fear, he would have remained stuck in hesitation. Instead, he chose to listen to his purpose more than his anxiety. Acting despite fear requires self-belief. It requires trusting that even if things do not go perfectly, you will learn and grow. Courage is built when you take small risks consistently. Each brave step weakens fear's grip. Each experience builds confidence. Over time, what once felt terrifying becomes manageable. Courage also demands vulnerability. When you step forward, you open yourself to judgment. Not everyone will support you. Some may doubt you. Others may misunderstand you. But staying silent or inactive to avoid criticism only limits growth. Joe accepted that criticism is often part of visibility. And visibility is part of progress. Another important aspect of courage is resilience. Sometimes fear is tied to past failures. Maybe something didn't work before. Maybe there was disappointment. But courage allows you to try again. It reminds you that past setbacks do not define future outcomes. It encourages persistence. Fear often signals growth. When something feels uncomfortable, it usually means you are stretching beyond familiar boundaries. That discomfort is not a warning to stop. It is a sign that you are expanding. Joe began to see fear as an indicator that he was moving in the right direction. Courage does not always look dramatic. It can be quiet and steady. It can be choosing to speak up when your voice shakes. It can be continuing to practice when results are slow. It can be submitting your work even when you are unsure. These small acts of bravery accumulate and transform character. Over time, courage builds identity. When you repeatedly choose action over avoidance, you begin to see yourself as capable. Fear may still appear, but it no longer decides your path. You decide. That shift is powerful. Joe's journey from dreamer to doer was not built on fearlessness. It was built on courageous choices made daily. Each time he stepped forward despite doubt, he strengthened his confidence. Each time he refused to retreat, he expanded his potential. Courage is not a single moment, it is a habit. And when you develop the habit of acting despite fear, you unlock possibilities that once seemed unreachable. Waiting is comfortable. It feels safe. It allows you to delay responsibility while holding on to hope. Many people wait for the perfect time, the perfect opportunity, the perfect conditions. They wait to feel more confident, more prepared, more supported. But the truth is, transformation does not begin in waiting, it begins in doing. Joe Ranga once stood at that same crossroads. He had dreams. He had ideas. He had ambition. But there was a period when he was simply waiting, for clarity, for validation, for the right moment. And nothing changed. The dream remained a dream because action had not yet started. The shift happened when he realized something powerful. Conditions may never be perfect. There will always be challenges. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be reasons to delay. If he continued to wait for everything to align, he would remain stuck. Transformation begins with movement. The first step may be small. It may feel insignificant, but it breaks the cycle of hesitation. Once you begin doing, learning, practicing, building, improving, you activate growth. Momentum replaces stagnation. Waiting often creates overthinking. Overthinking creates doubt. Doubt creates paralysis. But action interrupts that cycle. When you take action, even imperfect action, you gain clarity. You learn faster by doing than by analyzing endlessly. Experience becomes your teacher. Joe understood that progress does not require perfection. It requires participation. You do not need to know every detail before starting. You discover direction along the way. Each step reveals the next. Each attempt sharpens your skills. Each effort builds confidence. Another powerful truth is that action builds identity. When you consistently act toward your goals, you begin to see yourself differently. You no longer identify as someone who talks about change, you become someone who creates change. That identity shift fuels deeper transformation. Transformation also requires responsibility. When you stop waiting, you stop blaming circumstances. You stop pointing at limitations. You accept that while you may not control everything, you control your effort. That realization is empowering. Time will pass whether you act or not. The difference is what you build during that time. Waiting often leads to regret. The regret of chances not taken, ideas not explored, potential not tested. Doing leads to growth, even if the path includes mistakes. Joe's journey proves that transformation is not dramatic at first. It starts quietly, with a decision to begin. It grows through daily effort. It strengthens through persistence. Over time, those small actions reshape character, confidence, and capability. The moment you stop waiting and start doing, you shift from passive observer to active creator of your own life. That is where real change begins. One of the most powerful truths about growth and success is this: your journey is never just about you. When you choose to rise, when you choose to act, when you choose to persist, you unknowingly give others permission to do the same. Your story becomes a mirror in which someone else sees possibility. Joe Ranga may have started his journey with personal dreams and private ambitions, but as he transformed from dreamer to doer, something bigger began to happen. His effort became visible. His discipline became noticeable. His courage became contagious. People began to observe not just his results, but his resilience. In life, many individuals struggle silently. They doubt their abilities. They question their potential. They wonder if change is possible for someone like them. When they see someone who started small, faced obstacles, and kept going anyway, something shifts inside them. Hope begins to grow. Inspiration does not require perfection. It requires authenticity. People are not inspired by flawless stories, they are inspired by real ones. They are inspired by setbacks overcome, by persistence through difficulty, by courage in uncertainty. Joe's struggles made his growth relatable. His challenges made his victories meaningful. Your journey matters because it proves that progress is possible. When someone sees you improving, learning, and evolving, they begin to believe that they can do the same. Your consistency becomes a quiet message: if I can move forward, so can you. Inspiration also creates responsibility. When you realize that others are watching, not to judge but to learn, you begin to carry yourself differently. You become more disciplined, more intentional, more aware of your example. Joe understood that his actions were shaping more than his own future. They were influencing those around him. Another important aspect of inspiring others is transparency. Sharing not just achievements but lessons learned creates connection. When you speak honestly about failures, doubts, and growth, people see strength and vulnerability. They realize that success is not a straight path, but a journey filled with learning. Inspiring others does not require fame or a large audience. It can begin in small circles: family, friends, colleagues. One disciplined act, one brave decision, one consistent habit can plant seeds of change in someone else's mind. Influence often grows quietly before it becomes visible. Joe's transformation was not only about reaching goals. It was about becoming proof. Proof that dreams can be pursued. Proof that discipline works. Proof that fear can be faced. Proof that ordinary beginnings can lead to extraordinary outcomes. When you commit to growth, you become a living example of possibility. And possibility is powerful. It spreads. It multiplies. It encourages action in others who once hesitated. Every step you take forward creates a path that someone else may choose to follow. Persistence is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. Talent, intelligence, and opportunity matter, but they can only carry you so far. It is persistence, the relentless refusal to quit, that transforms effort into lasting success. Without persistence, potential remains just that, potential. With persistence, even the most unlikely goals become attainable. Joe Ranga's journey was filled with moments when giving up seemed easier than continuing. There were setbacks, failures, and obstacles that could have ended his pursuit. Yet he persisted. Day after day, challenge after challenge, he chose to move forward. That decision, to continue despite difficulty, became the engine of his growth. Persistence is not dramatic. It is not always a sudden breakthrough. Often it is quiet, repetitive effort. It is showing up when motivation fades. It is practicing when progress feels invisible. It is taking small, deliberate steps, even when the path seems uncertain. These small actions compound over time, building momentum that cannot be stopped. Persistence requires patience. Results rarely arrive instantly. Immediate rewards are rare. Joe understood that the most valuable outcomes often take time to manifest. He focused not on instant gratification but on long-term growth. Each setback became a lesson, each obstacle an opportunity to strengthen his resolve. Over time, these repeated efforts accumulated into significant achievement. Persistence also strengthens character. It builds resilience, mental toughness, and determination. When you persist, you learn to endure discomfort. You learn to embrace challenges rather than avoid them. You discover that failure is not fatal, it is a stepping stone. Each moment of persistence reinforces the belief that you are capable of more than you imagined. Another key aspect of persistence is adaptability. Persistence does not mean blindly repeating the same action. It means continuing toward your goal while learning, adjusting, and improving. Joe didn't just keep moving, he kept moving intelligently, refining his methods and growing through experience. Persistence also inspires others. When people witness consistent effort over time, it encourages them to adopt a similar mindset. Joe's dedication became a living example that obstacles can be overcome and goals can be achieved through unwavering commitment. Persistence is contagious because it proves that success is possible even in the face of difficulty. Ultimately, persistence is about mindset. It is about refusing to let temporary setbacks define your journey. It is about believing that progress, no matter how slow, is better than stagnation. Joe's story shows that those who persist are the ones who ultimately create results, because they do not quit when others do. Persistence transforms potential into reality. It turns dreams into achievements. It converts hope into tangible outcomes. And it ensures that effort is never wasted because every step forward, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal. A vision is the foundation of any meaningful journey. It is the clear picture of what you want to achieve, the mental blueprint of your future, and the compass that guides your actions. But a vision alone cannot create results. Without execution, it remains a fantasy, a beautiful idea with no impact. Joe Ranga understood this distinction deeply and turned it into a driving principle of his life. Having a vision gives you direction. It allows you to see beyond the chaos of daily life and focus on what truly matters. Joe's vision was not just about personal success. It was about growth, learning, and transformation. He imagined the person he wanted to become, the goals he wanted to achieve, and the contributions he wanted to make. This mental image kept him oriented, even when circumstances were challenging. However, a vision is only as valuable as the actions taken to realize it. Many people spend years dreaming, planning, and imagining without ever taking the concrete steps necessary to make their vision tangible. They are captivated by possibilities but immobilized by fear or uncertainty. Joe noticed that dreaming without doing created frustration, regret, and wasted potential. Execution bridges that gap. Execution requires discipline, persistence, and clarity. Joe didn't just imagine success. He broke his vision into actionable steps. He set priorities, defined short-term goals, and created routines that aligned with his long-term objectives. Each day, every action he took was a building block toward the larger vision. This is the essence of turning an idea into reality. Small, consistent execution fueled by a clear sense of purpose. Execution also tests your vision. When you act, you discover what works and what doesn't. Mistakes and setbacks provide feedback that refines your strategy. Joe treated every misstep as data, learning to adjust, improve, and continue forward. Without action, vision remains untested and abstract. With action, it becomes measurable, tangible, and achievable. Another critical aspect is accountability. A vision without execution lacks responsibility. You may feel inspired and motivated, but if no progress is tracked or delivered, the vision has no influence on your life or the lives of others. Joe created systems to measure his progress, ensuring that his vision was not a fleeting idea but a living roadmap guiding daily decisions. Moreover, execution transforms belief into confidence. Seeing results, no matter how small, reinforces the feasibility of your vision. Each completed task, each milestone achieved, strengthens your sense of self-efficacy. Joe's actions validated his dreams, proving to himself that what once seemed distant and impossible was within reach. Vision inspires, but execution delivers. Dreams ignite passion, but action creates impact. Joe Ranga's journey illustrates that the true power of a vision is realized only when it is paired with consistent, focused, and strategic execution. Without execution, the mind may wander in fantasy, but with it, imagination becomes influence, goals become achievements, and potential becomes performance. Joe Ranga's journey from dreamer to doer is a testament to the power of vision, persistence, and action. Every step he took, through challenges, failures, doubts, and fears, was guided by discipline, focus, courage, and self-belief. His story reminds us that success is not an accident. It is a series of intentional choices, consistent effort, and the willingness to grow through every experience. The key lessons from Joe's journey show that anyone can transform dreams into reality if they are willing to act, remain patient, adapt to circumstances, learn from mistakes, and surround themselves with positivity. Dreams alone are not enough, but when combined with determination, hard work, and the right mindset, they become achievable. Ultimately, the transformation from dreamer to doer is available to everyone who is willing to take responsibility for their life and commit to the journey. Joe Ranga teaches us that the only limits that exist are the ones we place on ourselves. By embracing action, consistency, and belief in your potential, you can turn ambition into achievement, obstacles into opportunities, and vision into lasting success. The journey may be challenging, but it is also profoundly rewarding. As Joe's story illustrates, every small effort, every brave choice, and every lesson learned compounds over time, shaping not just what you accomplish, but who you become along the way. Your dreams are waiting, but they only come alive when you step forward. Be the doer, not just the dreamer. Start today.